Today we're going to go through bacterial rot. It's one of the common problems that you can have with your orchids. We'll go through what it does to your plant, how to get your plant to survive from a bacterial attack, and we'll show you the early signs so that you can get on it sooner than later and catch your plant before it looks like this.
And welcome to the Nature Company. If this is the kind of information you're interested in, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and that notification bell to be notified of all our upcoming content so you don't miss out on a thing.
Bacterial rot can be every orchid grower's nightmare. This can happen in a matter of 3 or 4 days if you're not keeping an eye on your plants. It happens so quickly, and if you aren't keeping on top of your plants, you can lose them really quickly. We know that this is bacterial rot. For one is the smell. You can smell the plant is actually decomposing while it's still in its pot. So we've got all these soft, squishy, liquid internals. The best way to do this is we're going to have to remove all of the infected parts of this plant, which, as we can see, is almost more than half of it. This bacterial rot can spread so easily. If your plant is in a state like this, you have to remove it away from the rest of your plants as quickly as possible, because it can be spread just by splashing of water, by the movement of the insects from one plant to the next, and it can devastate the rest of your collection too. So just remember, as soon as you see the signs of bacterial rot, put it in a separate area, find a nice quarantine area for it, and then you can start looking after it. So with this, what we're going to have to do is remove it from its pot. We can see the media is decomposed or was holding too much water. The plant itself was very compact with very little air movement. So these are all factors that are going to allow this bacteria to really progress really. Also, high humidity levels and a warm environment are going to amplify the growth of your bacteria. So we'll just separate this part of the plant out. Just using our hands, we can notice the entire plant has gone completely squishy and horrible. So after doing that, sanitize your hands again, because we don't want to spread it to the other parts of the plant that are still okay. So we'll just carefully go through the plant. Here we can see there's more affected areas. We've got some nice fresh growth coming where the leaves have been infected. So the best bet to do is to try and open this out, divide it into sections. Again, equipment, after every cut you're going to have to ensure that you disinfect your equipment again, because, as I say, these bacteria are spread incredibly easily. There we go, you can see this is where the rotten section is. Clean away any of the debris in and around it so we can allow for any parts that might stay moist to dry out. We can see this part of the top leaf is all rotten, so we can just remove those parts out. Try and remove all the soft squishy parts away as much as possible. So we have all of these parts of the orchid that are still viable, and those we can treat and repot. All of this stuff here that has been infected by the bacteria, the pots, if you're reusing your pots, sanitize it properly with hydrogen peroxide. With the media and the orchid, the best thing to do is not to put this onto a compost heap, is to throw it into the rubbish bin. We want to try and minimize the spread of this any further, so bin it. So when going around looking through your orchid section, some of the early signs of that bacterial rot, you'll notice the leaves start going black, brownish, squishy. You get these almost circular kind of roundish marks with a blackened edge. Well, it looks like a blackened edge, but it just really looks bruised. And this discoloration, all signs of early bacterial rot. And when you come into the plant itself and you look at these leaf sheaths around the bases, how they start to go yellow and squishy. These are the early signs that you do have some bacterial infection in it and that you need to treat it soon. Remember, when working with infected plants, sanitize your hands and your equipment. With this Brassia, we can still see that it's got all this new growth that still wants to keep growing. So this is not a plant that's ready to be destroyed completely. It's still got a lot of strength left in it. So to treat it, to make sure that we get this back up and going properly, what we're going to do is we're going to be cleaning off all of this leftover leaf material and that from around the plant so that the bacteria has nowhere to hide and to set into. Just cleaning in there nicely. We want nice smooth surfaces with nothing that can start the rot. And there we have a nice looking cutting. It looks like it's never been infected with any bacteria in its life. So what we're going to do to ensure that anything that's left on it is gone is we'll just take our handy hand sanitizer, give it a spray through the root system, as this is where a lot of the bacteria had started off since it had gone in through the roots and up through the rhizomes and into the pseudobulbs. So we'll just give the whole plant just a light spray with that, and all the parts that we've cut or that have open wounds we're going to treat. So what we're going to treat it with? Well, our handy cinnamon. Cinnamon has both antibacterial and antifungal properties. So we'll just put some of our cinnamon aside in a separate dish, and we'll take those ends that have been cut and just dust them in the cinnamon. Any open wounded areas, just put that cinnamon straight on. You can give it a gentle rub around all those sections of the rhizome just to ensure that those are going to then be bacteria free. So we have a nice treated plant here, and we'll put it into a new disinfected hanging basket, because we know that bacteria like moist, humid conditions with little to no airflow. Put it in a hanging basket. We can hang it somewhere and have that good airflow through it. That can help prevent any further infections of the bacteria in the future. One of the reasons that I like to use these hanging baskets is because they've got this handy reservoir at the bottom. I remove the plug so we don't have water staying in that reservoir, but it allows for an amazing airspace in at the base of the orchid so that the air can move up through the roots. There we go, and all we're basically going to be doing is filling in this. We use the small orchid bark for our brassias because they like to be kept moist but not damp. There we go, and it's as easy as that. And also when you land up with large mother plants like this of your brassias, this is also another point where you've got to start being careful. You have all this overgrowth and the back pseudobulbs start to rot in underneath, and this can start becoming problematic for your plant as well. So this poor Brassia, even though it's trying to flower, is going to need it to be repotted as well to avoid the bacteria from taking over and destroying our whole plant. So, and to ensure your Brassia that you've caught in the early stages of bacterial rot, you need to fix it. This is easily done as well. All we do is we remove all the infected parts of the plant. We'll go in, cut away the leaves that are looking infected, and we cut as far back as possible to ensure that the bacterial infection is kept within the portion of the leaf that we've cut off. And then in these sections where you have these leaf sheaths, you want to go in and pull those off. It's not always the nicest thing to do. It's all gooey and sticky and smelly. But if you want to save your plant, you've got to get dirty. See, we're just taking some of the balance of the other leaf sheaths around from where also that infected one was, just to ensure that we get, see, all that water that was in there. Just to ensure that we can flush all that infection out. Okay, once we've caught our orchid and taken off all that nasty bacteria off at these early stages, and we know that pretty much it's safe and the bacteria hasn't reached the potting media or into the rhizomes, then what we can do is we can just go with our trusty hydrogen peroxide. I'll put a link in the description for the video on how we make that, and just make sure that we get in to all those little gaps in between and give that a good spray. This is going to kill any of that bacteria that is left alive, and as it dries out, it will just make sure that all that bacteria is dead and your plant is safe. And remember, after you've had a bacterial attack on your orchid, its vigor is going to be right down. So it's going to be open now to secondary infections of things like fungus. So we're going to give this a week and then give this a good dose of a fungicide to ensure that none of those secondary infections can get in. Also here too, we've treated this with the cinnamon. The cinnamon also does have anti-fungicidal qualities, but still, again, after a week, we're going to give that a spray with an antifungal. Something like a neem oil or something should just do just about right and keep these all healthy. So always remember, it's far easier to catch your plant sooner than later. Get rid of that bacteria as soon as you see any signs that could even indicate that it looks like it could be a little bacterial infection, because we see how quickly it can really destroy your whole plant. In 3 to 5 days and your orchid could be dead. So keep an eye out on that. So to recap, if you find any bacterial infection on your plants, remove those infected parts, treat any open wounds with cinnamon, and of course treat with an antibacterial agent such as hydrogen peroxide to ensure your plant is safe. Keep it quarantined until no further infection has taken place.
Thank you for watching, and if you've found any of this information valuable, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't already, and that notification bell, bing bong, to be notified of all our upcoming videos so you don't miss out on a thing. Help us grow as we help your orchids grow.